Hi from Nick and
Hi from Martin.
And today we're going to talk about 43 St. Hildas Avenue in Bellevue, Doncaster. Love the name Bellevue. It's so American. It sounds like Los Angeles somewhere. Anyway, interesting property in reasonably good condition. And what makes this slightly different to the usual is that we have the actual viewing tomorrow, but we have a 360 walkthrough, and in our collective experience, once you have the 360 walkthrough, you kind of see everything, because it's just the most comprehensive, detailed way of looking at a property. And we decided that whenever we have these really good quality this good quality footage, then we'll work to that, and then it means we're organized in the morning when it all kind of kicks off. Because what we find with really competitive property is that the estate agents try and rush everyone as much as possible, and it all gets really crazy, and it means that our clients get rushed and everyone's all flustered. So the simple answer is, wherever we can, we just get ahead of time. With that in mind, let's go. So I'm going to share my screen, and here we go. So as ever, we're going to score this at the end. We've got lots of scores now, which means that our numbers are getting more and more robust as time passes by, and we also have our calculator. Anyway, let's, oh yeah, I need to share my screen. That would help. Okay, now, as I said, we've got a calculator, we've got lots of scores now, we're nearly up to 100 of these. Well, I started doing these not that long ago, and I just found that we liked them because it helps us, and we find our clients like them because it gives a kind of standardized view as to whether it's good property relative to other properties. Anyway, let's have a look at this property. Now, this is in lovely Doncaster. So I'll just give you context of where that is first, so that you can kind of get your bearings. And Doncaster was recently made a city, which is quite good. And it's kind of what I call a tier 2 urban conurbation. So you'd have the big conurbations like Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds, Birmingham, and then I would call tier 2 Derby, Nottingham, Doncaster, Chesterfield, Stoke-on-Trent, and so on. So they're big enough, so they've got quite a robust local economy, Hull, of course, but they're small enough so that they're slightly overlooked by the horde of aggressive investors who are just there because the next person is there, if that makes sense. So social proof is a big thing in investing, because people don't really get their bearings particularly, and they go, well, if Fred invested in Swinton, then I'll invest in Swinton because it must be good, because Fred put his money in there. And that's not necessarily the case at all. And so these days we're just kind of looking away from Manchester a little bit more. And part of the equation is the quality of stock and the overall value and the potential for capital growth and all that, which we're going to get into. Now, this is looks to me like a 1940s or 50s house, I would say. And what is it? 50s. Nice. Well, the newer the property, the happier I get, because the quality of the fundamentals is usually better, and that's damp proofing and so on. All right, now this property's got nice fascia boards, etc., but let's carry on. And the interior on this property is really tidy. It's been very nicely decorated, and little telltale signs. The quality, the crispness of that line is really good, and it's got the right kind of colors. It's that lovely neutral gray. So it's been decorated fairly recently, but the owners had retained this carpet. And when you look on the 360, which we will be, you'll see that this is really high quality carpet. And the reason they didn't want to get rid of it is because it's such good carpet, but it makes the property look dated, but it is very high quality. And it kind of represents how, let's say, how these people have looked after this house. Just the quality of everything is just really nice. And the backyard is lovely and so on.
Meter square, so which is great.
Sorry, what's that, Martin?
It's 100 meters square.
Oh, is it? Really? Let's have a look at that floor plan just to get some context. And that's a sizable house then. But you can have a big house and have a bad layout. But in this case, I would say this is a big house with a decent layout.
Yeah.
So everything is just a little bit more space, which is lovely. Yeah. And I'll just go back into the pictures and you can see here, very clean. So based on what I've seen earlier from looking at the 360, it just does not need much work. Look at that garden. Look how tidy everything is and how nicely trimmed everything is. Just all very nicely looked after. That roof is good. It's just nicely done.
And the last sale is 1995. So that's then till now people really care about the property.
Yeah, it is super. It's just so nice. Okay, so I'm going to take us to the hallway first. Sorry, there's lots going on here. And all right, let's start. What I want to do is just enlarge this. There we go. All right, so we start in the hall and then we'll work our way around. Everything is just lovely and clean, like all the little details. Little things like the door handles. Look at how nice they are. It's immaculate. Now, if I go down to the kitchen, I think that's an area of contention. Now, it's kind of an economy kitchen. You can see economy faucets. This would have been done when they moved in. In theory, it's a difficult one. Do you replace the kitchen or not?
I will
and
not.
Arguably, I agree. I agree with you. I think arguably you wouldn't. It's a bit dated looking, but look at all the little details, like the way all the doors are fitting nicely and everything is just tidy. So I think people would look past the fact it's a basic kitchen and look towards the fact that it's got a modern boiler, the double glazing is lovely. Everything is just so.
The cabinet replacing based on the EPC.
Sorry, what needs replacing?
The boiler needs replacing. It's old.
Boiler?
Yeah.
Is it an old boiler? It looks pretty new to me, but okay.
Maybe EPC is made 2018, so maybe they changed it between that time. I'm not sure.
I suspect they did. That looks like a very new boiler to me. The reason I say that is because old boilers generally just look older. And importantly, if you look at this back panel, this is new and all the little tabs are lovely and the sticker is really clean on this. So I think that's a fresh boiler. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't. Okay, so let's have a look at the dining room. And we can see here, it's just very tidy. Now, there are ways you could make this a much nicer space, but one of the issues you've got is this chimney breast, which is structural, probably. And so the idea of being nicer placed, what I mean is that you could open this up and you could have double doors out onto the garden and just have nicer access to the garden from the house. But right now, your main access is through that single door here, and it just feels a bit disconnected from that. But considering the price of the house, which is 150, and the overall quality of the finish, I think it's a minor compromise, and I think people would look past that. Because, as I said, this place needs virtually no work. And the electrics look nice. Now, we do need to see the circuit board here, but the electrics were probably done when the property had its full makeover, I would imagine. All right, let's have a look upstairs and look at some of these bedrooms. Again, just very tidy. I don't know what's in that. Something is in that. Usually it's, don't know what it would be, but this bedroom carpet's good. And also another point to note, if you see here, look, sockets and sockets. So this place was rewired, and therefore I really don't think it's going to need more rewiring, because in the old days they just did not have so many sockets around. Look, sockets, sockets. So this was probably rewired in the 90s. Look, more sockets. That's great. And also, interestingly, nice quality door. So cheap doors don't have this beading, which is draft exclusion beading. So again, they put money into this house when they were doing the renovations. Very nice. Okay, so this is all really, really nicely done. Now, arguably, you could modernize a few things. This is classic kind of 90s stuff. Now, this radiator is suffering a bit, but it's relatively easy to change these because you're not changing any of the plumbing. They're standard width, and also they've got isolator valves. So what that means is you could just turn everything off and then unscrew here in the fixings, and then put a chrome radiator in, which will be 150 quid, and it'll really bring the bathroom up. So if you get rid of that, leave everything else alone, then I think you've got a very nicely set up bathroom. And you can see that they've made a compromise. They've got rid of the bath, but they've got a lovely shower enclosure with the proper mixer and none of the power shower stuff. And also, if the boiler was old, then you would have an immersion tank, and then you enroll this. But the hot water is coming out of this. Another small detail. It's just a small detail. It's very cheap to get another hose, which would be in better condition. A hose and a shower head. You don't need to replace anything else. And then I think this bathroom would be lovely. So altogether, you can see I'm raving about this place because it's just altogether very nice, in my opinion. Now, let's just have a look outside. And where am I? Look here. Let's find it. So it just seems to be not finding where we want to be. But there we go. Okay, here we go. Found it. And let's have a look. Oh, very nice. It's a nice road, but these houses, look how well they've been modernized. I wonder if a developer came in and bought the two and then just did the same, because they're both identical. And this is 43, and this is 41, 45. That roof is lovely. It's a new roof, by the way. That would have been, we're after 45, aren't we?
No, we are 43. 43.
Oh, I'm glad, because actually 43 is nicer. Okay, here we go. And yeah, just nicely done. All of that's in good shape. There might be a couple of issues down here which need addressing, but nothing major. Gutters look good. This place was given a complete makeover in its day. The flashing looks good. It's a very tidy house. Very nice. All right, so this is all good. The renovation cost, just to say on this, I would say you're looking at probably £2,500. So new radiator, new couple of bits and bobs, and new carpets, and really that's it. You just leave the rest. Oh, and a new cooker because it needs a cooker. The rest. So yeah, it would be literally 2.5 grand, maybe add an extra 1,000 just for surprises. But I would say that's what you're looking at. Now let's look at the other stuff, the demographics and so on. So we've got a lovely property. It's 150 grand, it'll probably sell for 155, thereabouts. And then the question is it worth it from the point of view of location and all of that? So the good thing is from a crime point of view, it's quite low. It's a bit of, yeah, there's nothing major here. It's just very quiet. So that's great. Lovely green space nearby, but Martin's going to talk about this and of course the new build, which is very exciting. So demographics are excellent. And we can see here, what I'm always looking for is just a bit of extra AB. If you've got like 15% AB, nice. And it's just a very Englishy area, quite a young area, actually, relatively speaking. So families, that kind of thing. Quite a lot of private rented in this little patch. So let's just have a look at a few other spots and see what's going on here. Yeah, interesting that there's that much private rented. You would think there wouldn't be, but then maybe it's because of the location and so on. All right, now the next thing is we're going to zoom out and just have a look at the growth story for this. Now, the thing about Doncaster is that I think we need to zoom out and just look at the rental demand and sales demand first, and then we can kind of gauge the situation. So the rental demand is good. It's strong. I wouldn't say it was absolutely red hot like some other areas, but it's solid. And from a growth point of view, if you take Doncaster as a whole, it's okay. It's not super strong. But then the thing with Doncaster is that you're making a bet on future capital gain. And the way the bet works is one should look at the history and then work out, is it undervalued, relatively speaking, or is it just a weak local economy? And the way I'm looking at this is that it's way undervalued relative to the market high. So in other words, without getting too into all of this, if an area is 18% below in real just inflation adjusted terms, if it's that far below, it's either because the local economy isn't great or it just hasn't caught up yet. And I think the local economy is strong. And I think there's a lot of value here. So again, I'll just quickly show you what I'm talking about here. And it's all to do with cost of money. So what happened at the last peak was that percentage of mortgage costs of take-home pay grew a lot. And this time around, we're entering a new peak, obviously. But interest rates are lower, but inflation is higher, and other costs are higher. So we have this weird thing where there is an affordability issue, but basically the cost of mortgages was 5%, I think it was, back then. So if we look at the interest rates, they were circa 4.5%, 5%, and then they were creeping up. Here we are here, they were like 5% at the end of it, and then there was the crash, and then they declined. So what am I trying to say? That it's a bit underbought, I would say. The demographics are very solid. It's showing moderate growth over the last few years. So it's just kind of keeping up with inflation, a little bit higher. It's not as hot as Manchester. But the thing I like about it is that it's consistent with the theme, which is that when a market gets a bit overbought towards the end, my correlation analysis has shown that as as the market progresses through the boom, expensive property tends not to do so well. Cheaper property does well, and people are kind of displacing, trying to find value somewhere else. And I think they'll find value here. But the other final question is, well, how did it do in the crash? What happened? And the answer is that it declined 16%. So it didn't grow that aggressively between 03 and 07. It grew, didn't crash that heavily. But it depends on which area. So we're looking at 19%, this patch, 7%, this patch, which would be downtown, 13%. So overall, I would say for a decent area, it's likely to decline nominally like 10%. So I think this is quite an interesting bet. And I think if you can get property at the right price with good enough yield, then we're looking great. And this is where I hand it over to Martin, because really the final question on this, apart from location, location is a critical thing, but is the yield there?
Yeah, it is. And first I will start speaking about the location. Property is here and have a huge garden. It's really nice.
Now your audio is a bit muffled, by the way. I don't know where your audio is picking up from.
Wait, I will try to add it from my.
Say something? No. I don't hear anything.
Oh, yes.
That's better.
Okay. So I want to can you see my screen?
Yeah, I see you, not your screen yet.
See what is record? It's red.
Okay, that's fine. Well, if you, then it'll record as showing, so it's fine.
The location is really nice. It's quiet road, and as you can see, you have a lot of new builds around, and also you have like McDonald's, and you have a gas station here, and you have a supermarket which is really close, and you have access. And you can see here is the road, so basically it's really close to supermarket. Also, you have a lot of schools around, but not really a lot of schools, but you have some stadiums, you have like some little big lake, like a pond. So basically its location is really nice. And going to central Doncaster, it's only like 7 minutes by a car, 14 minutes by transport. By walking, it's around 30 minutes. Depends where in central, even faster. For example, if you want to go here, it will be 15 minutes. The location is really amazing in Doncaster, and just showing that this new will increase the value in the future. And you can see a lot of new builds coming around. So this is like you buying a property in good shape between new builds, which is amazing. The property is built between 30s and 50s, 100 meters square. EPC is for making EPCC, you just need to replace the boiler. That's all. And maybe
well, I think the boiler has been replaced because that's a really new boiler.
So basically, that's it.
Yeah, just needs reassessment, EPC reassessment.
Very low risk for surface water, river, and the sea, and there is no reservoir risks. So you are safe based on that. And this area in Doncaster doesn't have any coal mining issues, so you are safe. So when you go to comparables, we start using property data. Basically, you can see that the properties who are sold, the new builds are 335, 210, but this 370, the sold 240, 240. So basically, the new builds are selling much more expensive. So that means usually the old build will start to catch up the value. Not now, but they will. Yes, what I see, the selling price for similar property here, you have from 140 to 165, and there is one property who is really, I don't know why so much expensive, 325. Yep. So, but this is not like it's detached house. So, but anyway, the price thing is it's 5 bed. So that's the reason. And detached house. So, and when you go to comparables for, I will just zoom a little bit more. So when you go to the comparable for similar properties, you can see in this area properties going to 10, 135, 210, 239, 145, but not same to that property. 150. I think the asking prices for this property is okay, and I will just reduce the radius for searching, and I want to try, and you can see that in this area is 160, 140 as I said, but they are selling like 5k. 160 is the same property, same type of property, it's the asking price was 160, and the condition was really, I can say, similar, and both they had, but it have laminate floor, it doesn't have the red carpets, but basically on this first floor you have the same type of good quality carpets. So I think the asking price 150 is maybe a little bit lower. If you can take it for 155, it would be, I think, in my view, amazing. And I will just give you a rent. How much is the rent in here? Yep. So, but okay, you can see one you have for 1,100, but I think that's really optimistic. But I think 850 will be the rent for this property, maybe more. But the new builds are renting for 1,000. So this will, you can see similar type of property 195, but I think 850 will be the rent for this property. So let's do the calculation for unscores and
yeah. All right, and here's the yield calc. So that would be gross rentable yield 6.5%. Nice, good figure. And let's score it. And okay, condition, excellent.
cannot see that.
Location?
Location
Sorry?
is, it's, yeah, now I can see 4.2. It's a really good location in Doncaster.
And area?
Really good 4.1. I want to give more than 4. Yeah, because this is like, because it's between new builds, so that's amazing. Like
capital growth, it's a funny one. It's the,
I think you have huge, my point of view, just because of the new builds. And what I noticed, like if you have new builds, all the properties going up in value just because the new build, I think like 100k more than the older, and they try to catch with the new build. They will never catch the price, but they're trying to catch, and they will have a huge capital growth, I think, this property, in my point of view.
yeah,
At least
I'm trying to think. I think it's underbought, relatively speaking, and the market is certainly in Manchester. It's being heavily influenced by investors, and investors aren't that they're not that concerned about which geography, which city they're in. They're portable, right? So they don't want to go and live there. They want to just buy and rent the place out. And I'm seeing Manchester kind of reach this, not fever pitch, but it's intense. It's been intense for a long time. But the shift that I'm seeing is more investment money. So it's people who are getting out of cash and rightly getting into property and so on. And I don't see the same kind of heat in Doncaster, but I do see Manchester starting to creep, so certainly parts of it creep into kind of being overbought. And I'm dwelling upon this capital growth thing here because it's quite an important topic. What I think is going on is that just generally, if I go to Manchester here, generally people don't have a clue about capital growth on the whole. They don't understand it because they can't get the information to make sense of it, which is why we built the platform and all of that. And they just know that somebody else invested in there and it must be really good. And therefore they go there. But what happens is you have a herd of people just piling in and you get a bubble. And this is a classic thing. It happens in a lot of things like crypto and real estate and numerous things. And it's a historic thing, and it's just humans doing their stuff. So one has to look at the fundamentals for these things, and in certain parts like Swinton, Stockport, Salford, these kind of areas, you can see just the dark brown tells you everything you need to know. These areas are just heated, but it's because they have people of confidence because their friend invested there, or their neighbor, their aunt, or whatever the hell. And if we look at Doncaster, it's just much cooler. But there comes a point where the numbers don't make sense. But people get delusional and they pile in and they just go, well, it's got to be better, because they're delusional, driven by fear and greed. And I'm just very I feel good about Doncaster. So anyway, right, let's have a look. So the bottom line is, if the fundamentals in this property are really strong, then we know that it makes sense, as it were. But risk is you lose out on a huge amount of capital gain, and capital gain is going to represent 80% of your wealth gain, because you don't make a great deal of money out of net cash return. With that in mind, what do I think about the capital growth story? It's not proven, which is the problem. And this is always the conundrum, because you get the best deals when something isn't proven. And so there is an argument, well, okay, you wait till you know, and then you go, which is what most people do, and then it just gets a bit crazy. But overall, the short-term growth for DN2, for example, DN3 is, especially DN2, which is very close to town centre, is strong. So what I think is going on here is, certainly this area, the housing stock is good. It's close to city centre. There's no real compromise with the properties. And that's why you're seeing real solid growth in DN2 versus like DN5 is strong. So I think the way I look at this is, you've got to start with the fundamentals. Like, is it a good house? Is it a good location? Do the right people do they want to live there? And if all of those add up, then you look at the property objectively, you go, yeah, okay, it'll work. Okay, so let's just put a final number. I'm going to give it a 4. I think the growth opportunities are very strong there, and they're strong for the right kind of property. So you have to be picky about what you buy. Yield, Martin?
Yield is a 4.3. It's all about yield. I mean, not all about, but it's a good yield. Yeah, it's really nice property. The conditions are nice. Location is nice.
So there you have it. It gets a good high score, actually. It's one of the higher ones, so 77 out of 100, so ranking pretty high for us. The big conundrum is always the capital growth. Like, how does it shape up on that front? And in my view, I would happily go to Doncaster if I could find a good quality property for a sensible price. Then I know I've got a nice investment that's not going to give me any trouble for a long time to come. And it's all. And if other people feel that there's value, then guess what? They start competing and the prices go up. So I think the trick with Doncaster is just to be super selective about quality of property and location. If you can do that, pick off the best for yourself, then it's a winner. All right then. Well, that's it from me. And
it's really nice property. I like it. I like everything about it, basically.
Yeah, it's very. By the way, it's got a bonus factor. I forgot to say. Sorry, they didn't show it in the real estate stuff, but I'll show you here. There's a garage, a drive-in garage. You can see in the back.
Yeah,
you can't get to the back, but there's a drive-in garage for this. There you go.
The back.
The garage is there.
The back road is gated. You have garage. Yes, correct.
Oh, really? It's gated as well. Let's have a look at that.
It's gated, which is always
I would I must say, the more I look at this property, the more I think, you know what, I would offer hard on this. It's such a nice little property.
Yeah. Maybe if it doesn't have offers and we send now faster, you don't need to offer high. 155, I think, if there is no
Yeah,
offer.
the point is I would be prepared to offer high. I just think there's so much about this property which just works. And it's just a very nicely done house in a great little spot, very reasonable
And
price, and the yield
yeah,
works.
and it's really close to the bus station as well. It's not really close, but it's close. So we should go direct to Doncaster, and you have really close big supermarket, so gas station. You have everything. So
Yeah, and lots of modern cars as well. Like this is 2021, but when people flash cars, like there was a BMW very close by, this fancy BMW, and just there's some money around here. That's a pretty new car, and so is that. Obviously, the people who live here into their cars, but you move on, and it's just very, very nice. All right, then, very good. Well, thank you very much, and all right.